What's up everybody, CHM Carnivorous here, and boy do I have a very exciting video to share with you today. First time growing seeds, we're going to walk through that. I'm going to tell you how I did it, what I researched, what I found out to help you when it's your time to grow them succeed. What's up everybody, I hope you're doing well. I hope you're having a wonderful day and a wonderful week. So I'm back again with another video, and this time I'm sharing a very, very special video. It's a big day for me, a big deal for me, and I hope it's a big day and a big deal for you too. And that is, I am trying seeds for the first time. Now, I have been growing Nepenthes for a little bit of time now, not too long, but I've always been scared to grow seeds. Now, I want to tell you a little bit about what I learned in the research process for growing seeds, what I did, some of the pitfalls to look out for that I happened to learn the hard way, how I did my setup, what's the best practices for it, and we'll talk about what the success was for today and what the hope is for the future. So a lot to cover in this video, but I want to go ahead and jump right into it. Got a lot to cover. Now, there are a few different ways that you can grow carnivorous plants. Now, or Nepenthes in particular. I've talked about this in the last video, where you can do tissue culture for those who are really hardcore into it and have the money to have a lab or a little sort of setup lab and can keep things extremely sterile. Now, tissue culture is fine in the fact that it can produce a mass quantity, but it does require a very, very specialized setup that can be very costly. Now, for those like me who don't have that expense at my disposal, there are two other options. One is cuttings, which I've shown in other videos, where you literally take little, just like it sounds, cuttings from the vines of other adult plants that have nodes on them that will eventually turn into plants. And that is one way to do it. The benefit of that, of course, is that you're going to have larger plants once they do root, and so you won't have to wait as long. Now, the other option is to grow Nepenthes from seeds. This is not for the individual that is a instant gratification. It is for somebody that has the patience and willingness to watch these things grow through the journey of their tiny little seedling life. So, growing Nepenthes seeds. Now, there are carnivorous plants like Drosera or Sundews that will actually self-pollinate or reproduce. Now, you can also with Diania or fly traps, you can actually put the two flowers together on the same plant and create seeds. I've done that and propagate them that way. With Nepenthes, however, you have to have a male and you have to have a female. And unfortunately, in the Nepenthes world, there are a lot more men than there are women. So it's very, very difficult. That's why a lot of times you see in my videos that I buy large quantities of plants, large for my stance, different quantities of plants. I am hoping not only for some biodiversity, but I'm also hoping to get that elusive female so that I can propagate the plants. Now, not all hope is lost. Let's say you have a female and don't have a male. There are a lot of people out there. There's Facebook, there's the International Carnivorous Plant Society, where you can actually get pollen from other donors and then make and then pollinate them and help to try to make other plants of your own. Now, if you happen to be lucky and have a female and a male grow at the same time and flower at the same time, then you can simply pollinate that, and whenever that happens, I will make a video on that. There's a lot of videos on YouTube that will show you how to do that if you're to that point. But essentially, you would take a Q-tip, take the pollen off of one, put it on the other, and voila. If it takes, you'll have nice big fat pods that will grow over time, and they will sprout seeds. Now, let's talk about the seeds. The seeds are extremely, extremely, extremely tiny. So they're like little tiny hairs. And if you think about it, it looks like a little tiny fiber or a little hair. And in that fiber, you'll see it goes a line and there's a bump right in the middle. That is the embryo. The larger that bump, the more viable the seed. Now, the idea with these seeds are the moment the pod splits, you want to go ahead and get those planted. I happen to buy these from Carnivorous, so they've been sitting around since March, which means that the germination rate or the strike rate won't be nearly as high, but I'm still hoping for some success. Now, what I did today is I bought 5 rounds, so I bought 5 different hybrids, and you get about, depending on the species, anywhere as low as 10 seeds to 50 and up. Again, they are very, very tiny, and so I went ahead and bought a round of 5 this time. I have another round of 13 hybrids on the way. This is going to be a big experiment that we're going to grow them, and you're going to follow along on the journey with me. The hope is obviously to get that biodiversity, But also, I'm hoping as these plants grow, I'll have a larger stock that I can start doing giveaways for you, the subscribers, so that you can experience these wonderful plants too. Now, let's get down to what I did. So I'm gonna very carefully try to pick this up. In here are tiny, tiny, tiny seeds. Now, where I got these from Amazon. You get 20 of them for $16. You can't beat that deal. And these are seed trays made for your common plants, but they'll work just fine for carnivorous plants. What you want to do is you want to fill the tray up. They come in little individual stacks. You want to fill that stack up with just pure sphagnum moss. Just plain long fiber sphagnum moss. Pile it in there nice and thick. Make sure you don't leave a lot of air holes. On the very top surface, you want what's called a finely milled sphagnum moss. Sounds fancy, but it's all about legwork. So what you're gonna do is take long fiber sphagnum moss, you're gonna chop it real thin with a pair of scissors, and you're gonna place that on top. The reason why you do that is it provides more of a smooth, less porous surface, so your seeds don't fall through and get smothered by the moss. Very important. Sterilization is very, very important. So what you can do is you take this moss and you want to microwave it. Yes, microwave it for about 30 seconds to a minute. You don't want to microwave it too long, because if you do that, it'll start breaking down the moss and that will cause a lot of problems. What you're wanting to do is just simply get the temperature high enough to kill any bacteria that might be living on the moss. Now, for the scissors, what I do, and I've talked about this with cuttings and cutting your dead pitchers off, is I sterilize them by taking a lighter and heating up the blade and then dipping it in water and or alcohol once the blade is cooled off, of course, and then you are ready to go. And so what you'll notice is, and this is the tip that somebody I wish would have said, and I'm going to tell you now, make sure that if you're going to put these seeds down, you do it away from an air source, i.e. this fan over here that blew away 10% of my seeds the moment I opened up the pod. Oh well, beginner's unluck, if you will. So make sure that you have the fans pointed away. I'm telling you, the seeds are small. They're meant to blow in the wind, and it certainly did just that. Now, the pods, you won't get all the seeds out, but you can do as much as you can. And what you want to do is simply break them up, the pod, which should already be open when you receive it, over the moss, and you want to get it spread out as thin as possible. That will allow those plants to grow so they're not competing with each other. If they happen to be clustered together, that's perfectly fine. You can move them around. And you want the seeds to rest on top of the moss, not sort of in the nooks and crannies of anything that you missed. And now once you have that there, you want to very, very carefully, with a low amount of pressure, water, spray that on top to sort of press those seeds down into the moss without burying them or splashing them out of your container. Now, it's very, very important that with any Nepenthes, regardless of the age, you want to use pure, inert water. So reverse osmosis water, distilled water. I happen to use water from a dehumidifier that I have that works just fine. I am a little bit nervous, honestly, about growing them like this, because while dehumidifier water is pure, there is a lot more potential for contaminants than there is a reverse osmosis or distilled water, but we will see how that goes. You want to give it a light spraying. The sphagnum moss should be moist, very moist, but not soaking wet. So normally when you would soak your moss, you would squeeze all the water out for your adult Nepenthes. Here you want to keep them a little bit more wet, but not dripping in water. So you don't want standing water. Now, what I like about these trays is it's got a little gauge on top. As these plants grow, I can start to open that up. Now, airflow is important with any Nepenthes at any age, but not necessarily as important when you're dealing with seeds. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna keep this closed, so there's gonna be 100% humidity going on in here for a little bit. And as the plants start to germinate, I'm gonna keep opening this up a little bit, giving them a little bit of airflow so that they don't create mold. You wanna make sure that no mold it gets on the surface of the sphagnum moss. It's not necessarily a guarantee it'll happen, but if you do have it, just spray it with some pure water and keep an eye on it. Now, I'm gonna go ahead and sit this down so I don't have a catastrophe on my hand. Very important also that you label your seeds. Highly important. The last thing you want to do is put down all this effort and time, lose the label. Next thing you know, you have a bunch of beautiful plants, but plants that you cannot identify. So take the time to make yourself a label and label the seeds, especially when you start to get in bulk orders like I'm doing. I would recommend Carnivorous right now if you want to try seeds. Currently, I believe the sale is still going on. They have a 30% off on select seeds right now, and that is why I was able to get a lot of seeds for a very low price. So it's worth the gamble to me, whether or not they grow. Now, I digressed a little bit. Let's get back to the seeds. When we're talking about light, Nepenthes seeds, like regular light, just like your normal Nepenthes. So when I say regular light, some seeds, they need a lot of light. Some seeds, they need a little light. Nepenthes will do just fine with whatever light that you give your adult plants. You don't want any light that's too powerful that will dry them out or fry them. You don't want any light that's too low that's going to allow mold to grow. So regular light is just fine. Now, what you're going to notice as these plants start to germinate, it can take as little as 4 to 8 weeks. And fortunately, with some varieties, it can take almost a year. While that is very, very rare, 4 to 8 weeks is when you should start seeing little tiny plants. And they don't necessarily produce pictures right away. They're going to look like regular plants until they start producing very, very tiny microscopic pictures. And so you don't want to mess with them. Even when they sprout, you want to leave them alone, continue to treat them, keep that moisture high. And so they're going to start to develop over time. Do not separate them, keep them together, even if they're clustered on top of each other. Let them be. And once the pitchers get to a point where they're, I don't know, maybe about this big, you can take a little bit of bloodworm and just feed them in one pitcher to give them a little bit of that extra nutrients that they need. Once they reach a point where you can start putting, let's say, a very, very small Osmocote pellet in it, you can then start to tease them apart and put them in separate pots. Remember, the Nepenthes have extremely, extremely fine roots, even at adult stage. So my big, my Caesar and my Brutus, very gigantic, in my terms at least, 2 foot long, foot and a half wide plants have roots that are about just a little bit thicker than a couple of hairs. So when you're talking this small, you're talking almost incomprehensibly small roots that are very, very easy to break. And so you don't want to do that. So let them grow, let them take their time. Now, to get from a seed to the point where you can start to pull them apart can take almost to 2 years. That's why I said this is not for the faint of heart or anybody that is sort of an immediate gratification. What I recommend in the meantime is do sort of a stair-step process where you go ahead and get your normal size plants, your regular size plants, you get some seedlings going on the side, and then you can also, especially like cross exotics, also offer seedlings that are already developed that you can buy batches of. That way you get sort of different plants at different life cycles, and so you constantly have something to bring you joy and to watch them grow. My fear is that people, if they start off with seeds, they'll become very disenchanted with the whole process because of how long it takes, and then they'll turn away. And then I also don't want the people who grow the adult plants to miss out on the wonderful experience of growing the plants from small ages. Now, again, this is my first time doing seeds, so we're going to go through this experience together. Let's cover a few things. Pure water, pure medium. You want to make sure it's cut down very, very small on the surface. High humidity. The way I suggest that is, as you saw, in a nice domed tray. That way you can keep humidity in. If you don't have the funds to buy those trays, or you don't have the availability, what you can do is just get a pot, put those seeds on the pot, just like with the instruction I told you, and then put that pot in a Ziploc bag, and that will do the same thing. And as those plants germinate, just like we talked about in the other videos with bag acclimation, you can start to open those up and ensure that those plants are getting air circulation the older they get. So I'm sure this isn't a comprehensive guide on seeds. I'm sure there's some things I missed. If there is something I missed, and if there's a question you have, please don't hesitate to reach out to me. Please don't hesitate to comment. I'd be happy to share whatever knowledge that I've learned through this process. I am excited about this journey. I'm excited about the other 13 that are coming in that we're going to do a video as well. And we're going to continue to monitor this and continue to watch these grow together, and so that we can experience that journey together. I hope that you have a wonderful day. I hope that you have a wonderful week. And as always, thank you for joining me at CHM Carnivorous. I love the support that you provide, the community that we're building here. And if you do like the content, please like and subscribe. Spread the word. The idea at CHM Carnivorous is to get as many people interested about these plants as we can, so that we can help push them back further away from the brink of extinction. All right, everybody, have a wonderful night. I'll see you soon.